back to Fighting Tonight. I'm your host, teeballpaul. And boy, did these two white dudes absolutely go off last week. On Thursday, a clip circulated of ranked UFC featherweight Bryce Mitchell telling the world on his Arc Insanity podcast that Hitler was a good guy. And not to be outdone, the very next day, Conor McGregor called his former foe, Khabib Nurmagomedov, the N-word. UFC President Dana White has since come out to denounce Bryce Mitchell's statements. At a Power Slap press conference on that same Thursday, the boss said, Hitler is one of the most disgusting and evil human beings to ever walk the earth. And anyone that even tries to take an opposing position is a moron. Well said, Dana. At this time, there's been no formal punishment or suspension issued to Bryce Mitchell. Let's just all hope he rematches Josh Emmett very soon. Oh, and as for Conor McGregor spewing racial slurs, not a word from the organization. That tweet has since been taken down, but let's be honest. At this stage in his career, these outlandish messages from Conor McGregor are hardly surprising. If anything, they've become a predictable part of his persona. We predict these things. Speaking of predictions, did anyone predict Nasruddin Imavov would knock out Israel Adesanya in the second round yesterday? I'll go on record to say that was the worst KO Izzy has suffered in the UFC to date. The pandemic-era legend was iced on the canvas in a truly brutal moment that left fans stunned. Unsurprisingly, the prevailing sentiment on social media regarding his loss is sad. Here we have a post that says, we can never forget Israel Adesanya's incredible run at middleweight. We also have footage of the former champion rewatching his KO loss. Watch.
Fair game.
Now viewers, please be warned, you might shed a tear in this comment section. User Big Baby Mig said, I'm crying because that name's so bad. But user Big Baby Mig said, Izzy, prayer hands, legend. Win or lose, still my best fighter. But our friend Ali Mack MMA kept it short and sweet saying, oh, I'm sad. She's Australian. But I mean, Ali Mack explained most people's Saturday morning perfectly. Why do we even need to do a segment on this? Izzy lost. I'm sad, she's sad. To be honest, the whole Saudi card was kind of sad. Pavlovich versus Rosenstruck, sad. Shamil Gaziv's physique improved, but still sad. And if you're a Dagestani fan, you're bummed out too because two of your guys lost. Saeed Nurmagomedov and Shara Magomedov. Tough stretch for Dagestan recently, right? If you throw in Umar, the Dagestanis have suffered 3 losses in 3 consecutive weeks. And imagine if Usman lost to Paul Hughes, because that fight really could have gone either way. Then you'd have 4 Dagestani L's to kick off 2025? There's something in the air this year. Maybe Poatan does actually have a chance against Ankalaev. But he needs to focus more on Ankalaev than wanting to box Alexander Usyk. Did anyone see this? Of course it came from the Jackson podcast. Why is Jackson the only podcast producing interesting sound bites these days, huh? That podcast produces 45 to 70 interesting quotes a week. But speaking of boxing, after the UFC, PBC delivered us a wonderful card from Las Vegas. David Benavidez and David Morrell went to war in the headliner. 2 undefeated light heavyweights under 30, putting it all on the line. This fight would have never happened 5 years ago, but luckily we're in an exciting era of boxing now. Thanks, Turkey. Al Sheikh, not hair transplant Turkey. We also had Pitbull Cruz versus Angel Fierro. The two men went balls to the wall, or should I say, bolas a la pared. It was an all-Mexican showdown that will most definitely get some Fight of the Year votes in December. But unfortunately, all the great athletic feats I mentioned will undoubtedly be overshadowed by something I thought our society did away with in the 90s. Jorts! The Timberlands I can live with. But the jorts have no place in sports. But somehow featherweight Stephen Fulton managed to win a world title in them, so hats off to him, I guess. Also, there was some confusion in last night's main event, because both of the fighters are named David. Here's how I differentiate the two. David Benavidez is 30-0, David Morrell is 11-1. Therefore, David Morrell has more L's. Speaking of L's, let's talk about next week's UFC pay-per-view. The combat sports leader returns to Sydney, Australia with their second numbered event of the year, for UFC 312. As Sean Strickland will rematch Dricus du Plessis for the middleweight championship, and Tatiana Suarez will challenge Zhang Weili for the women's strawweight title in the co-main event. Other than that, the rest of the card is complete buns. But a Sean Strickland fight week will always generate headlines. So next week we'll have a lot of manly stuff to talk about, I guess. If you liked what you saw today, be sure to follow Home of Fight on YouTube and Instagram. And if for some unknown reason you liked me, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at teeballpaul. I don't have an ex because I'm married to the fight game. Signing off from SoCal.